What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some of Cooper Kupp's route running and why I feel he is one of the best route runners in the NFL. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it can teach you a few new things, but also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver and would like over 500 plus wide receiver drills and gym exercises that you guys can do, check out that very first link in the description below for our ultimate 8-week wide receiver workout plan. It's 8 weeks of daily gym and field workouts combined for wide receivers, give the exact sets and reps to do, and we also show an example of each drill and each exercise. So check out that very first link in the description below if you're interested in that, fellas. Let's get started with this video. So this first route we're looking at from Cooper Kupp here is like this 10 to 12 yard out route versus this DB who's kind of in like off man coverage, but he is in head up. Now, something that all wide receivers can do, especially all great route runners, is pair their releases and pair the moves that they use at the top of the route together. You want to make your out route look exactly like you're running a post route, a dig route. You guys want to make your post route look exactly like you're running a corner, exactly like an out route, not only with your speed, but with the move that you decide to do. So we're going to play this clip here from Cooper Kupp, then we'll break it down. So he gets to the top of this out route, and he uses a move called a triple rocker step, or some people would consider this just a rocker step, but he takes 3 steps at the top of this break, selling like he's going to be running a post. In my terminology, this is called a triple rocker step. So I'm going to play this thing full speed again one more time. Again, he comes up here, and it's just a right, left, right to try to get this DB off that platform, bite on the post break, and get separation. So what does Cooper Kupp like to run a lot of with his routes, or what move does he like to use a lot of? And that's just the regular rocker step. So you've seen him before. He'll run a post and he'll just break off a 1 foot. Then he'll break on a post and he'll do a right, then a left, which is just your traditional rocker step. It's a 1-2 at the top of the break. And then what he does on this one when he runs the out route is he steps at the right foot, left foot, and then steps at the right again. So all 3 of those cuts where you do a single cut, you do a double cut at the top of the break, you do a 3 cut at the top of the break, that is getting in the DB's head and getting him off guard, if you will. It gets him to have to rely on his technique and not anticipate our routes, because that's where DBs make most of their money, anticipating our routes, and wide receivers give the routes away. Now, when you get to the top of this break and you decide to do this 1-2-3 move, a DB who is in off-man coverage should not be looking to the inside, right? His eyes should not be looking to the quarterback. This tells me that it could possibly be a zone coverage concept, because I usually don't think DBs at the NFL level make that type of mistake. But like, let's say, for example, it was off-man coverage and he's bailing out of here. This wide receiver is going to be watched by this DB at his hips. Kupp is going to have this DB's eyes locked on his hips, so that's what you have to focus on selling the move at the top of the route with. You are not selling it with your feet. You're not taking these big, over-exaggerated cuts, because all that's going to do is waste time and throw off the quarterback's timing. A lot of wide receiver coaches and a lot of wide receivers are hesitant to make these types of cuts, to do these types of moves, because they'll screw up timing with their QB. Their QB is used to them just running up, taking 1 step, and getting in and out the break. That's why you can't over-exaggerate this reach outside your frame. So you see when Kupp does this, all 3 steps are inside of his frame. He's not reaching. The weight is distributed on the ball of his foot. He's on the ball of his foot with his first cut. He's pushing off of this to the second cut. It's not a big step. It's a hard step. It's a sudden step, but it's inside of his frame, because we don't want to reach. If you guys reach and this foot gets way outside your frame, you start to drag your feet. You don't have any push because this foot's outside your frame. You don't have any speed out of the break. And that's why so many coaches get so upset with people using these moves at the top of the route, because they lose speed. Guys, on a rocker step, it should maybe lose a fraction of a second of normal speed where you're just coming off of 1 step. So that's exactly what Kupp does here. And there are countless numbers of examples of him doing this type of move versus off coverage versus press coverage where he's able to stack. So a rocker step, a single cut, and a triple rocker step are all 3 things that you can do. Maybe a DB has seen you run that rocker step post on film over and over again and get separation. Now, maybe he's anticipating it. You make it look the exact same. You step with the right foot, left foot, it looks the exact same. 1 last step and we break to the out route. So that's what all great wide receivers can do. You look at Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs. They all have their own unique ways of making things look the same. Like Devontae Adams is a perfect example. And he's obviously been considered the top route runner at the top of the hill for wide receivers for a very, very long time. What does every release look like from him? He does this little hezzy move and then he goes, or he does a little hezzy and runs a crossover and runs a slant. I swear to you, like 90% of that guy's routes are slants and fades, and nobody can stop it because he makes it look the same. So same idea at the top of the break. So now we're going to be looking at this curl route here from Cooper Kupp, and this from top to bottom is just a very, very good route. A lot of information on this route that you guys can take home with you as a wide receiver watching this. So he does this outside release fake. So he gives his move to the outside, pushes vertical, is able to throttle down, come back to the ball, and get separation from this DB. So let's talk about this, right? So he's got another head up press look. So on this channel, we talk a lot about, setting up DBs, attacking leverage, having a pre-snap process, and trying to understand what this DB is trying to do before the ball is even snapped. So let's say, for example, the DB's lined up inside shade, and you have to go run like this same 12 back to 10-yard curl that Kupp runs. So you're probably not going to take an inside release when he's inside shade. You're probably going to attack him inside, try to get him to hold, and take the outside release. Our goal is at the break point, we throttle down, we slip underneath him, and come back to the ball. DB's lined up outside shade. We would probably attack him, take what he gives us to the inside, get skinny, and then break back to the ball. Now, if this DB is head up, the great part about head up press coverage is that we could go either way. It's more so based on the route rather than on the DB's leverage, because the DB's leverage, whether he's inside or whether he's outside, is what dictates the type of release that I take. So when he's head up, I could just head him outside. I could fake like I'm going to the outside, get him to move, and take the inside release. Ideally on a curl, on a dig, on a post, I would love the inside release. The only time I take the outside is if I have to. So let's watch what Kupp does with his releaser. He comes off the ball and he attacks this DB. But when he attacks, you see how he's actually stepping outside of his frame. His hips, his shoulders are stepping there. And it's not the fanciest move. It's not the most explosive move in the world. But as long as we are moving and we are attacking vertical, and we're going to show some other examples of this later on as this video goes, that can get that DB to just hesitate. If we could just get him to hesitate, maybe open up a little bit, and that opens up the inside release, I did my job. A DB's goal in press coverage, fellas, is to get hands on us, to disrupt timing with the QB, and to disrupt spacing on the play. So if I can attack and get him to move by stepping outside of his frame, not doing all this pointless movement behind the line of scrimmage, that can get me a lot of separation. Now, the goal on the stem, and this goes for any route. This goes for a post route, a dig, a curl. We have to get this DBs to fully open up his hips. Hips and shoulders should be fully committed to the opposite end zone, and we got to make him think that we're running a fade. And this is a great example of Kupp selling vertical all the way into the last second. So you see how when he bursts up, you see how he's running with good speed. He's got his head down, running in full stride. He's got a good body language. By body language, I mean like his pad level. He's not raising up with his chest. He's not running tall. He's got his head down. He's digging, and he is striding all the way to the break point. So that is what gets that DB to turn the jets on, if you will, and think that it's a fade, right? And get him to be running full speed downfield. Because when we get a DB running full speed downfield, fellas, and we know exactly where to break, and if I can sell that I am running that deep vertical route, I will get separation. Because the DB's reacting off of us. We're breaking at a landmark, so we automatically have the upper hand. That's why playing DB is so dang difficult. So he's pushing up vertical, head down, pushing fade, and then he throttles this thing down. So when you guys throttle down on a break, you have to understand that there's two ways that you can stop while running full speed into a route. Number one, you have to make sure that we are dropping low. So the good position that I try to get to or try to teach my wide receivers to get to is being at that parallel, slightly below parallel position with your lower body. If you guys can drop and sit your butt down and get to that parallel spot, that's going to be able to help you decelerate. But when we drop to that parallel spot, it's a quick drop. It's a violent drop. Because so many wide receivers, what they'll do is leading into this break, they will start to slow down maybe 2 to 3 yards before they need to because they don't have a violent hip drop. They will slowly sink their hips. And when you slowly sink your hips, not only does that not help you change direction quickly, that gives the DB more time to react. Because as we know, that DB's eyes are going to be on the hips. So the quicker I am with the hips, the more violent I am with the hips, I'll be able to stop quicker, but get more separation from the DB because he has less time to react. Now, the second thing that you want to do, because a lot of guys will sit down like this, but then when they land, they're on like their heel, their chest is up in the air, their chin is up in the air, and they're almost leaning back. So when you're leaning back after you break and you're on your heel, that's not a good position to create some explosion so you can drive out of the break point, right? Because ultimately on every single route, there's 3 phases. You want to be able to sell vertical like Kupp does right here. You want to be able to create energy and get low with the break, and then you want to be able to accelerate out. So when you drop, let's think like we're being violent, we're sitting down, but your chin should never go past your knee. Your chin should not be straight up in the air. Your chin should go to the knee. Like there's almost a string attached to it, and you're pulling the string straight down. So this puts you in a position to stop yourself. but also an explosive position where you can drive out and come back to that ball if we need to, drive out on like a comeback route, whatever the break might be. So that is textbook right there from Cooper Kupp. That's a great example of beating a head-up press coverage DB by attacking outside of his frame, pushing vertical, throttling down, and then winning that race back to the ball. So now, this next router from Cooper Kupp, this move is what I would consider like an open field crossover. So I wouldn't consider this so much like a rocker step like what we talked about in the very beginning of this, but it's still the same type of, I guess, mechanics, if you will, but it's more of like a lateral fake, if that makes sense. I'm going to play it full speed and it'll make more sense what I'm saying. So he comes up here off the ball, patient release, gives a move, gets that DB to jump, and then wins on this like kind of like 5-yard option route, if you will. So fellas, you got to understand that when you got a DB who's in man-to-man coverage, whether he's an off man, whether he's in press man right off the ball, or whether it's like this, maybe 5 yards away and you got to go close the distance with him, the way he moves is by you making it believable, right? There's so many wide receivers out there that try to get way too creative or crafty off the line, whatever word you want to try to use for it, and they never actually threaten a DB with the direction we're trying to get him to go. Like if I got a DB who's lined up like inside leverage, for example, I actually got to step to his leverage. I got to make him think I'm running a slant if I want him to get him to move and hold his leverage. If I got a DB who's outside leverage, I actually got to step to his leverage, step outside his frame, make him think we're running a fade because that's the only way we get him to move. So when we got a DB who's in open space, I like it because we could pretty much take him wherever we want, right? He doesn't have a specific leverage. He doesn't have a specific distance. It's just you and him, and we got to try to make him miss. And you make him miss by making it believable, like we said. So you see when Kupp decides to make this crossover move, he hits him with the right foot. That's the first part of the crossover. Then goes with the left foot. See how far he's actually stepping. See what his hips and see what his shoulders do, because that's what this DB is going to be looking at. He's going to be reading our body language. He's taught that the hips will tell him where we want to go. As a receiver, you could almost reverse engineer that to where that helps us out. You almost want to think your belly button turns to wherever you're trying to fake this guy out. You actually have to step there. We actually have to attack because that's what's going to get him to move. So many guys do like the pointless, head and shoulder movement where they lean, they dip their head, but there's no movement down here and there's no movement with your feet. When you come across a disciplined DB, that is not going to work. You line up against a press coverage DB who's right in your face, right up on the line of scrimmage, and his eyes are high, looking at your shoulders and your head. That's wrong. Why would he ever have his eyes up high if he's disciplined? Because the eyes will lie to a DB every single time, and any DB coach will tell you that. So as a receiver, we have to focus on selling with my hips, sell with the cuts. Let's step outside the frame. Now, obviously, you don't want to reach like a crazy amount to where you don't have any power or explosion off this cut. That's why you think of it like your hip is attached to your foot. If your hip goes when you step, you could step as wide as you want. Like think about it like this. Think about this. Let's say you're balancing on just your right foot, and let's say you're going to jump from your right foot to as far as you can and land just on your left foot. What's going to happen? You're going to jump and your body's going to go with you when you land on the left foot, right? So the left foot's going to be inside your body frame. It's not going to be a very wide step. It's going to be inside. It's going to be under your hips, if you will. That's how you want to think of a cut. You cut with your right foot. You're pushing off of it on this crossover, but that body goes with the foot. So that foot will never be outside your frame if the body goes with it. And again, that helps us sell it. When your body goes with the cut, also it's for balance, explosion, but it helps you sell with your hips. And that's what gets that separation and gets that DB to jump. That's a textbook route there from Cooper Kupp. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great example of that open field crossover and how you could use that to get separation. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. Always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like an 8-week wide receiver gym and field workout plan, everything mapped out for you for 2 months on the field for route running, press releases, hands, the works, and then everything in the gym to help with speed, explosiveness, etc. Again, very first link in that description below, fellas. I'll see you guys next time.